Patrick Kavanagh said, to know one field, to know one patch of land is a lifetime's work.
You're very welcome along, and I want to tell you about an exciting new partnership between the National Museum of Ireland and the Heritage Council. I'm joined now by Neil Jackman from Alberta Heritage. Neil, tell us about the partnership and tell us how it's exciting.
Hi Hassan, thanks very much for having me on. So yeah, the partnership, it came about through, we're all kind of stuck in it was 2K, now it's a 5K kind of zone. And at Alberta Heritage, we manage a project called Adopt a Monument for the Heritage Council. And the purpose of Adopt a Monument is essentially a way to connect communities with the local heritage sites, So the main focus that we really have is getting people to see what's around them and getting people to, understand a little bit more about it, empowering them, I suppose, to discover a bit. So while we were kind of stuck in our zone and not commuting and everything like that, even myself as an archaeologist, I started to notice a lot more that was around me. So we took the idea of, perhaps there was a way of, helping people to research what they have around them, because there's some terrific resources out there, for example. And I approached the Heritage Council and the National Museum of Ireland, who have this wonderful Our Irish Heritage website, to put together this program whereby people can discover what they have by using all of these resources that we might talk about in a little while, and also how they can share what they have in their area as well. So, and it's a very, very broad view of heritage as well. So it's not necessarily all ancient monuments and technical stuff. It can be anything from natural heritage. It can be, field names, folklore. There might be a particular story about the old ruined cottage at the end of the street or something like that. So it's a really all-encompassing thing, just so people can discover what's in their 5K.
And the Know Your 5K is it for everybody? Is it for a specific group? Who's it targeted at?
Well, it's absolutely for everybody. Know Your 5K takes, as I say, this really broad view of heritage. And what I'm hoping is that we'll get people submitting, using some of these resources. So, for example, I think it could work really well as people doing it off their own bat and doing an individual project, but it could work equally well as either a family or even a school project. If you looked at kind of the older students, maybe, or older children, they could follow all the different online resources to find out the full complex story of a place. They're looking at the folklore, looking at the archaeology and the history. So they're learning a good few different avenues of research there. For younger children, and for anyone who fancies doing this as well, we're also really interested to see how heritage inspires people. So if a child does a picture of their local monument, maybe it's an old church or a bridge or something like that, or if somebody has a poem or a story about a place, doesn't have to be technical. It doesn't have to be anything, fully researched history or anything like that. We're just looking to see how heritage actually matters to people. So there's loads of different kind of creative ways that people can engage with it.
So for the likes of me, as I mentioned offline, I'm a technologist. I live by my screen. Mm-hmm. You're telling me to look up and look around rather than look down.
Well, you can actually do both. That's the good thing about it, So you might go out for your walk, for example, and you might see there's a weird old building, and it's historic, but you don't know much about it, right? So when you get back to your computer, using these resources that we have, the fantastic ones like heritage maps or the National Monuments Historic Environment Viewer and all of these things, you can look at it using a number of different ways, and it can tell you the story of the place. So you might find out that weird looking building was perhaps an RIC barracks in the 1920s, and that further from that, there's all these stories about maybe that was raided by the IRA during the War of Independence and things. So you start pulling one thread just by noticing it when you're outside on a walk, and all of a sudden you're led down all these different paths, developing a really complex story, which is really interesting and exciting.
And how can people access Know Your 5K? This is, so I'm out on the walk, I see something, and straight away talking to you, already I can think of there's a million things in my town that I could be talking about, or I could be taking pictures of. Is this self-research? So do I take a picture of it and then research it myself, or is there somewhere I can upload this content to?
Well, there's both again. So if you went out, for example, and you saw a building you were really interested in, you took a couple of pictures on your phone, what you would do then is come back, and if you go to the Our Irish Heritage website and you find the Know Your 5K section, that will lead you through all the different steps on how to research it. So you know, and all of those resources are freely available online as well, which is really important. So you don't have to leave the home even in some ways. So you can go through all those steps of getting a little bit of information. And then there's a really easy contribution form. So you just fill it in, say what it is, you know, give your thoughts on it, your impression on it. It doesn't have to be the technical history of the place. Upload your picture and hit submit, and then, you know, one of our moderators will take a look at it and push it out there online. If you're just contributing something, like I said earlier, say if you're out with a 10-year-old or something, and they were really inspired by this beautiful bridge or something, they did a lovely picture of it. All you have to do in that case is just upload that picture onto the contribution form, maybe a couple of lines about who did it and why they were inspired by that particular setting or monument, whatever it happens to be, and hit submit. That's equally as valued by us as well, you know. So you can kind of go as deep into this or as shallow as you like. And so just the last thing is, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be what's outside the home as well. If you have historic features inside, if you have letters from immigrants, you know, old historic documents and things like that, privacy is always protected, so your exact location won't be shown on any of the maps. But we'd be really interested in seeing some of the heritage in your own home as well, you know, if you fancy contributing that too. So if you don't fancy going out and about, or if you are restricted, you feel like you want to continue cocooning and so on, you might still be able to take part in it too by doing that.
So this is for everybody. I like the point of look within what you have. So look within your house. So I'm always saying that how many boxes of photographs or old documents do you have in your attic? You're looking for that kind of input as well, are you?
Well, absolutely, definitely. I mean, that's a really good kind of resource, and it's really, you know, stepping outside of the scheme for the moment. That's actually great for organisations like the Museum and the Heritage Council to see. They're seeing this kind of wealth of documentation and history and stories of everyday lives that could easily be overlooked or lost. You might have documents or photographs. You might have an architectural feature, like a particularly interesting fireplace, or you might have perhaps there's old historic buildings, right, you know, in the yard, you know, or something like that. Anything really. It's such a broad view. We're also really looking for biodiversity as well, like natural heritage. So you might spot and get a nice picture of a particular type of butterfly in the garden. You'll see there's resources there for identifying natural heritage, and National Biodiversity Data Centre, for example, have great resources on that. So that kind of natural heritage can also pick up, you know, quite a lot of really useful information as well. So very broad view.
And what about what do you say to people who, and again, I'll use myself as an example. Why would I? There's a monument in my town in Bal. I'm flat out talking about Bal because it's an amazing place, right? But there's a monument in Bal, and in that monument, there's bullet hole markings from where there were people lined up in front of it and threatened.
Okay.
I don't know that full story.
Yes.
That story is attached to that monument. So I would walk past it. I wouldn't see myself going, oh, I'll take a picture of that and I'll upload it, because if I do that, then I'm only uploading half a story. And I don't want to be uploading a half a story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see, the thing is that you can kind of get the best of both worlds then. So you might be walking around, notice that monument, see those things and think, well, I wonder if they are bullet holes. Using some of these resources, it will give you the depth of information that you're looking for. So on your next walk, you can go, okay, I'm going to get a really good picture of this particular one, because now I know that, you know, why that's significant, or whatever it happens to be. So one thing can feed into the other. You can either identify places by doing the research and seeing what's around you. And you know, I must stress that we're not encouraging people to go into private property, for example.
Of course.
You know, all of that goes without saying. You might notice in the town, oh, look, there's this mad story that I never knew about. I must go and walk down there and see, can I get a picture of that? Or see if that building still exists or something like that. So you can be inspired to go in the walk in a different direction, you know?
Yeah.
Or alternatively, as you say, you might see something when you're out and about and then want to learn a little bit more about it using the resources when you get home. So either way, you know, it introduces you to the story of the place, and that's what we're really excited by.
And so we've spoken about me going out and about, and how can we, the CESI staff room is a chat within a staff room that is the Computers and Education Society of Ireland staff room. Mm-hmm. How do we get students involved with this project? Because I think they're I think they'd love this.
They would. I think it's, you know, it could be it could offer a tremendous possibility for a number of different projects. So let's say, for example, it's all about, because there's layers of information that people can go to, they can pick the ones that best suit particular age groups of students. I think that's probably the most sensible way of going about it. So let's say if you were dealing with upper primary age students, you might say, well, what we want to do there is to be creative with the heritage, and, you know, maybe get them to kind of write a story about a particular place or draw a picture of a particular place, you know, if you want to bring in art and creativity. Or we could even hark back to the amazing work, which is one of the key resources there in the National Folklore Collection, which had children going interviewing their grandparents. Perhaps they want to do an interview with a grandparent about a story about a place that they know. You know, what was life like on the main street in 1950s or the 1960s, for example? What games did they used to play as children? All of that could be made for great primary school or even older projects. For slightly older students, maybe transition years, who have perhaps a different kind of skill set, well, this project taps on technology, because there's the whole process of going out, getting the information, using photography, you know, audio recordings, video recordings are welcome in this as well. There's the research aspect of it, so historical skills. It draws on them being able to use sources to compile the information. And of course, it draws on English and writing ability as well, in terms of them being able to craft from all of the information that might be out there from a site a couple of paragraphs about why it's important to them. So there's a few different sorts of avenues and focuses that a teacher could ask the students to concentrate on. Because we're open to all different types of submissions on different types of heritage, it leaves it quite open for the, you know, what the best fit would be for the individual teacher and the individual students as well. And bring it into that as well as the natural heritage side of it as well. So you might say, okay, we're really interested in learning about what insect life people might have in the back garden, for example. And there's a great project that they go out for an hour, then on one sunny day, everyone picks an hour and they just note down what they see in the garden and send it in. You know, we'd be delighted to see that kind of thing, you know.
And so will you give us a step-by-step on how to, so how do people upload the Know Your 5K?
Okay, so if you go to ourIrishHeritage.org, and then from there you'll see the Know Your 5K section. And when you click on that, you'll see there's a bit of information there about the project. It gives you some guidelines. You can see where the resources are and all of that. But you'll see that there's a Contribute to Know Your 5K section when you're in there. So when you click on that, it should lead you through to it's a simple form. So say, for example, you had, in your example, what you might have are some pictures and a little bit of text that you want to put in to describe, you know, what the site is and why it's important to you, why you're interested in it. So you get these drop boxes that you can tick for pictures, and then another box for add text. And you can add up to, I think it's about 500 words or something like that. So a brief description. You can also add in things like where you got the information, for example. You know, that's always useful to see. And once you hit submit, It's just really, honestly, it's as simple as that. The main thing you need to add is the location, and it gives you a guide to how to find the coordinates of the place so we can put it on the overall map. Once you hit submit, it goes to the moderators, and then we aim as quickly as possible to publish it out there. You can also see your post then appear. It'll appear as a pin on the map, and it'll appear alongside all the other contributions that have come in as well. So you'll be able to kind of see and search what else is around you. Just to add as well, if somebody's already done one feature, and perhaps teachers might be thinking of, it's a small geographic area, you're going to get 10 in of this one particular church. That's fine too. One student might have one take on the site, another one might be focused on another aspect of its story and all of that. So there's no harm having multiple entries about one particular place.
Do you see this as an ongoing project when all of this is over? And I say all of this because I'm not a fan of using the unprecedented time, although I've used it in every single podcast. But do you see this as an ongoing project?
I certainly hope so. And I think it could be particularly harnessed by schools. I think that it would really lend itself, because you're doing it within a defined geographic area, and because there's all these different sources you can use in the classroom, or as children doing it at home. I think that there's great potential there to build on this, and to start to look at different aspects of heritage and different sorts of stories then. So it could become something that really has a long future. I certainly hope so. Beyond this, and once that restriction's lifted and the 5K's lifted, it's still helpful, I think, to define an area that you want to study. It's like, it was Patrick Kavanagh said, to know one field, to know one patch of land is a lifetime's work. It's really true. There's all these different layers that we have to pretty much every little corner of the country, and I think that this project, by giving it a defined geographic area, allows that level of depth that we can get into. And so I hope there's great potential there for the future.
Neil, thank you very much for joining us in the CESI staff room, and we're going to be in touch soon with the help of God.
Thanks very much. And if anyone has any questions, please do send them in to us. You can find me at info@abartaheritage.ie. But hopefully, I really look forward to seeing some great entries coming in from schools around the country.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're back from your walk. You sit down at your computer and you go, right, I'm going to upload this to the Our Irish Heritage website, Know Your 5K. What you do is you make your way to www.ourIrishheritage.org, make your way to Know Your 5K, and then you get to the Submit Your Know Your 5K entry. You give your contribution a title. So now you get to the Know Your Contribution part of the page. Now, the Know Your Contribution part of the page is very straightforward. If you have any words to add, you add your words. If you have any photos to add, you add your photos. I scroll down to add words. Neil mentioned a beautiful Patrick Kavanagh quote, so I took that quote. I thought it would be a lovely way to start this particular post. I then did a bit of research on the Victorian cartwheel sweller and what it was used for. I got a bit of information back here. And I also added, if you know more about this, please feel free to contact me. So that's opening it up to everybody. Now, please let us know the source of your information. This is important. So I've put down Facebook and local story. It's asking how many images do I want to upload. I'm putting down 1. In the upload section, you choose the file from your computer. You give it a name. You tell us where it's sourced from. And then you have the location of your contribution. This is a bit tricky, but not impossible. You can get your location from Google Maps. I cheated a little bit, so you might want to use this tip. I took the photograph with my phone, I uploaded the photograph to Google Photos, and then I asked Google Photos, where was this photo taken? And it gave me the coordinates. If you can't do that, all you have to do is go to Google Maps, find out where you are on Google Maps, put a pin down, and it will give you the coordinates, the exact coordinates of where that pin is dropped. Does your contribution relate to a local monument or architectural feature? Now, I've put down no, because if you put down yes, you have to find an SMR number. Now, I don't know what the SMR number. I went to the heritage maps. I couldn't find something relating to the Victorian cartwheel sweller. So I'm going to say no. The date of your contribution, so please enter the date, time, period relating to your contribution. I don't know that, so I'm going to leave it blank. And finally, you put in your own details and then click submit. So that's all we have time for. Thank you very much, Neil Jackman, for that information. And do you know what? I think personally it would be a nice one for schools. I think students could get involved with this. I think everybody can get it. I think it's a lovely community project as well. If you have any information or about today's podcast, or you want to contribute something, please, you can contact us on Twitter at CESI Tweets. You can contact me directly. I'm on Twitter at Hassan Daba. You can go to the CESI website, which is Computers and Education Society of Ireland. That's www.cesi.ie. You can click on the mailing list and you can join the discussion on the mailing list. Why would you join the discussion? Well, if you have any questions about anything you're doing within your classroom, stuff that works, or maybe you just want to tell us about something that doesn't work, please let us know. There's about over 2,000 educators now connected to the CESI mailing list. Let us know what you think. We do genuinely want to hear from you. Next week, I'm putting together a podcast on the Leaving Cert and how the Leaving Cert will affect students, will affect you, and will affect parents. This isn't going to be a debate, pros and cons or anything like that. It's just keeping it simple, just letting you know this is what's going to happen, this is how it affects you. And if you have anything you want to contribute between now and then, please will you let me know. You have the details above. So until we hear from you again, take it easy. Bye.